The ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas has reached an alarming new level of intensity, with the Al-Qassam brigades launching a devastating assault on Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, operating within Gaza's densely populated Jabalia refugee camp. This latest escalation comes amidst an already volatile situation, further amplifying the scale of destruction and deepening the humanitarian crisis in the region. The battle for Jabalia has quickly become one of the most ferocious confrontations in the ongoing conflict, marked by deadly precision, tactical ingenuity, and a staggering human toll. The Al-Qassam brigades, the military wing of Hamas, unleashed a meticulously coordinated assault against IDF positions within Jabalia. Employing guerrilla warfare tactics honed over years of conflict, Hamas fighters used underground tunnel networks, improvised explosive devices, IEDs, and advanced weaponry to counter Israeli advances. Reports from the scene describe relentless exchanges of gunfire and explosions echoing through the camp's narrow streets, while plumes of black smoke rise from buildings that have been reduced to rubble. The intensity of the Al-Qassam brigade's attack demonstrates their strategic adaptability and resilience, even in the face of Israel's overwhelming military power. Military analysts have noted that Hamas has been preparing for such confrontations, leveraging Gaza's urban environment to neutralize some of the IDF's technological and tactical advantages. By employing hit-and-run tactics and blending into civilian areas, Hamas has made it exceedingly difficult for the IDF to distinguish between combatants and non-combatants, further complicating Israel's military operations. Israeli officials have confirmed that the operation in Jabalia has resulted in significant casualties among IDF troops. The dense urban terrain of the refugee camp presents enormous challenges for Israeli forces, who must navigate a labyrinth of narrow alleys, crowded homes, and hidden threats. The use of underground tunnels, often referred to as Hamas's metro system, has allowed Al-Qassam fighters to launch surprise attacks and evade detection, prolonging the conflict and inflicting substantial damage. In response, the IDF has intensified its offensive, deploying airstrikes and artillery barrages to target Hamas positions within Jabalia. However, the heavy bombardment has also led to widespread destruction, devastating the camp's already fragile infrastructure and exacerbating the suffering of its civilian population. Videos and images emerging from Jabalia paint a harrowing picture: buildings reduced to rubble, streets filled with debris, and residents desperately searching for survivors amid the wreckage. The humanitarian toll of the conflict is staggering. Thousands of residents have been forced to flee their homes, seeking refuge in overcrowded shelters or with relatives in other parts of Gaza. Those who remain face dire conditions, with limited access to clean water, electricity, and medical care. Hospitals in Gaza, already overwhelmed by years of blockade and resource shortages, are struggling to cope with the influx of wounded civilians and fighters. Doctors and aid workers describe scenes of unimaginable suffering, with many patients requiring urgent treatment that is unavailable due to the collapse of the healthcare system. The international community has expressed growing alarm over the situation in Jabalia. United Nations officials have called for an immediate cessation of hostilities, warning that the conflict is pushing Gaza to the brink of a humanitarian catastrophe. In a strongly worded statement, the UN's Special Coordinator for the Middle East peace process urged both sides to prioritize the protection of civilians and to refrain from actions that could escalate the violence further. Human rights organizations have also condemned the heavy loss of civilian life, calling for independent investigations into potential violations of international law. For Israel, the operation in Jabalia is part of a broader military campaign aimed at dismantling Hamas's military infrastructure and restoring security for Israeli citizens. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has framed the offensive as a necessary response to the persistent threat posed by Hamas, which has launched thousands of rockets into Israeli territory in recent weeks. Netanyahu has vowed to continue the campaign until Hamas's operational capabilities are significantly weakened, emphasizing that Israel will not tolerate attacks on its civilians. Hamas, on the other hand, portrays its actions in Jabalia and elsewhere in Gaza as a legitimate resistance against Israeli aggression. In a statement, a spokesperson for the Al-Qassam brigades hailed the fighters engaged in Jabalia as heroes defending Palestinian land and people. Hamas has also accused Israel of committing war crimes in Gaza, pointing to the high number of civilian casualties and the destruction of homes and infrastructure. The battle for Jabalia reflects the broader dynamics of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which has been marked by cycles of violence and deep-seated animosities. The underlying issues, ranging from disputes over territory to the status of Jerusalem and the rights of Palestinian refugees, remain unresolved, fueling the continued hostilities. The current escalation in Jabalia underscores the high stakes for both sides, with neither showing signs of backing down. The regional implications of the conflict are profound. Neighboring countries, including Egypt and Jordan, have expressed concerns about the potential for the violence to destabilize the wider Middle East. Egypt, which shares a border with Gaza, has played a key role in mediating past ceasefires and has once again called for an immediate halt to the fighting. However, the prospects for diplomacy appear dim, as both Israel and Hamas remain entrenched in their positions and unwilling to compromise. The international community faces a difficult challenge in addressing the crisis. While Western nations, including the United States and European Union, have voiced support for Israel's right to self-defense, they have also called for restraint to prevent further civilian casualties. At the same time, there is growing pressure on these nations to address the root causes of the conflict and to push for a sustainable resolution that ensures peace and security for both Israelis and Palestinians. For the residents of Jabalia, the immediate concern is survival. As the fighting rages on, families are faced with impossible choices: to flee and risk their lives in the process, or to stay and endure the horrors of war. The psychological toll of the conflict is immense, with countless children and adults experiencing trauma that will likely have long-term consequences. The tragedy of Jabalia is a stark reminder of the human cost of war. Beyond the political and military calculations, it is the civilians, ordinary men, women, and children, who bear the brunt of the violence. Their stories, often overshadowed by the broader narrative of the conflict, serve as a poignant reminder of the urgent need for a resolution. As the battle for Jabalia continues, the question of what comes next looms large. Will the international community be able to broker a ceasefire and bring an end to the violence? Or will the conflict spiral further out of control, leading to even greater devastation? For now, the answers remain uncertain, and the people of Jabalia, like so many others in Gaza, are left to endure the unrelenting horrors of war.